Thank you for joining us on Back to School Night. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. I wanted to just take a few minutes to introduce myself. I'm Mrs. Povletich. I'm teaching AP Psychology and AP World History this year. And I wanted to explain a little bit about who I am and what this course is going to be and introduce you a little bit to the exam as well. So let's go ahead and get started. A little bit about my background. I'm originally from Wisconsin. Grew up in a farming family. My dad and my brother still farm 3,000 acres of potatoes there. I grew up in a very small town of only 400 people, so it's nice to get back a couple times a year to still visit family and kind of slow down a little bit out of this busy California lifestyle that we lead now. My background, I have a Bachelor's of Education and with a emphasis in social studies, so I pretty much have taught all the different social studies at the different schools I've been at. I've been at West Ranch now, this is year 6, and I've been teaching economics for the first couple of years along with AP Psychology, and then we introduced our AP World program a couple of years ago, so I've been teaching that as well. I also have a master's degree in curriculum and instruction, and I am a nationally board certified teacher. This is my family. We did some traveling over the summer. We went on a road trip back to Wisconsin, which was great to visit some national parks. We have a 6th grader at Stevenson Ranch Elementary, and my older son just started at West Ranch as a freshman this year. So we stay very active. We like to travel a lot. We even spent some time at Disney World this past summer after they opened. So the students tend to hear a little bit about all of our adventures, and we even actually are heading to Arkansas to go mountain biking this coming weekend for Labor Day weekend. So lots of exciting times in our family. My husband works for Warner Brothers. He works on building budgets in their finance division. So, all right, a little bit more about the class. I want to first introduce you to our Google Classroom. I think it's really important as parents to keep an eye on what's going on in Google Classroom with distance learning, because there's a lot that students are doing on a day-to-day basis that you may not be aware of, and especially with distance learning, kind of keeping an eye on that and asking every now and then to see their Google Classrooms so you can see what's going on in class and making sure that they're keeping up with things. Every day I post in the stream our agenda for the day and any slides or anything that I need students to have or want them to have access to. So if they're ever absent or they get kicked out of the Zoom meeting because of a technology issue, they know that they can always come back to the stream and figure out, here's what we did for the day. So everything is there that they would possibly need. And then under the classwork is where we keep everything. So at the very top is their digital notebook, which they have access to on a regular basis. The Zoom link and our daily warm-up are here. Every day I always have a wellness question or two for them to answer, that kind of keeping them focused on their own positive mental health. And then there's always some kind of review or connection between their lives and what we're learning in class. The resource handbook I'll explain shortly, and then each one of the units has its own section, and then the day-to-day things that we're doing in class and the things that they need for activities and things that are going on. So that's a little bit about Google Classroom, and it's always, like I said, a good idea to go in and check on it every now and then just so you can see what's going on. But I'm going to introduce you to this digital notebook. This is where we are keeping everything that we do in the class. So each unit, they'll have a different notebook. We've been focused a little bit on kind of the foundations at this point and kind of building up the history of psychology, and then we're moving into our research methods portion of this first unit. So the notebooks really do become kind of a review document for them. It has some specific information from the College Board, and then it gets into actually what they're doing in class. So we've looked at different people in psychology, important people, and there's a lot of them. There's over 100 people that are on the AP Psychology course description, so helping them get used to knowing the people as early on as possible. But then this is where all of our activities and their note-taking and everything else happens. So if you ever have a question about anything that we're doing in class or how they're doing in class, ask to see their notebook, because it should be up to date, and we'll keep adding new sections into it as we move forward. But that's really a good idea, a good place to keep track of everything, and then it's going to be for them a really useful review resource for them when it comes time to study for a unit test or study for the AP exam at the end. So that's a little bit about Google Classroom and what you can look for in there. I want to just introduce our units of study. There are 9 different units. The course got redesigned a couple of years, actually last year, and they condensed 14 units into 9. Didn't really change a whole lot, just kind of changed some of the titles a little bit. There's a lot of science at the very beginning. So this first part, we're looking a lot at the scientific foundations is different methods of research, data analysis, there's some statistics in there. Then we get into the biological basis, so that's all of how our bodies work in determining how our behaviors and our actions and our mental processes. And then sensation perception just kind of follows into that again, how our body and mind work together to perceive what's going on around us. So a lot of science in this very early part, but nothing that should slow students down, nothing too difficult for them. It just, they kind of need to know that that's kind of the foundation of that part. Then we get into learning and cognition, how we learn and then how we think. This is actually a very big unit on how we think and problem solve and make decisions. And then our goal is kind of to be, we'll probably be partway through cognition. I usually like to get as far as the first part of cognition on memory before winter break, and then we'll come back to it and continue to work on it after winter break. And then units 6, 7, 8, and 9 will be after winter break, developmental, looking at motivation, emotion, personality. Clinical psychology is focused on different mental health issues and concerns and treatments and behaviors, and then social psychology is kind of a fun unit to finish up on some very interesting research into how we act in social situations and so on and so forth. So these are units of study. It really is designed to give students an introduction to all the different areas of psychology. So it doesn't need, none of them dominate the course. They're just kind of introducing them to the different fields of psychology and what type of studying and research that psychologists do and how they help people. And it's really such an interesting field with so many different things that students can pursue and find of interest to them. If they have a unit that they're not quite as interested in, well, there's probably one coming up that's going to be more interesting to them. So it's a very good balance of things, and so much of it pertains to their daily lives and the things that they do and how they think and how they behave on a day-to-day basis and their interactions with others. So it really is a neat course in terms of how much they can apply to their own personal lives. Obviously, it's an AP class, so the end game is the AP exam. This year, or in 2021, it will be on Tuesday, May 11th. As of this point, the College Board is planning to move forward with testing as usual. Last year, they did all sorts of modifications for the pandemic, and this year the plan is that they are going to test as normal in the spring, so that's how we're preparing. This test is 100 multiple choice questions. It is a big multiple choice exam spread out over all of those 9 units. And there's different skill levels to those multiple choice questions. So there's some that are pretty basic vocabulary type of questions, and then it gets more complicated and gets into being able to apply them to different situations and being able to pull out historically what research has already been done in psychology and connect it to different things. There's data analysis questions in there. There's being able to understand how to do experiments and psychological research as part of their multiple choice. So it really does cover the entire gamut, and we'll be practicing those questions all year long. And then there are also 2 free response questions. These are not really essays. They're more, students are given a scenario and then they have to apply certain terms to that scenario. One of them is just concepts and the other one is focused on research design because psychology is so heavily research based. The students have in Google Classroom this resource handbook that I've given them and that I will be continuing to add to throughout the year. And I want to just show you within this, there's several different sections. The beginning part is the syllabus at the beginning part. So if you ever want to take a look at what the syllabus looks like, my grading policy is in here, which is a little bit different. I grade using standards-based grading, so it looks a little bit different than a lot of other courses. Everything's graded out of 5 on a 5-point scale, so my grading scales in Infinite Campus do look a little bit differently. Most of their grade comes from their multiple choice unit tests and their free response questions at 70% of their grade. The rest of it, a lot of this is things that we're required to do for distance learning, the engagement, the participation. Those are all things that are part of the changes made for distance learning in our way to keep you up to date on how they're doing in the course and how they're doing with distance learning. So these are the different categories that I use for grading, and then kind of the breakdown of where those grades come from. The exams, like I said, the multiple choice exams are broken down by skill. So they will actually get 5 different grades in that category for each exam they take, because I break down the questions by skill. So we can really narrow in on, are they struggling with just knowing the vocabulary, or are they struggling with the application part of it? Do they know their data analysis and they can do that every test, or is that something that we need to go back? This really allows me to kind of pinpoint where their struggles are when it comes to the exam. If we move ahead to the AP exam, within this document are all sorts of sample questions. So the multiple choice, these are some sample questions of that skill 1A, the very basic concept understanding, just kind of knowing what is the sympathetic nervous system, what do antidepressants do. So very basic type of questions. And then they get more complicated. They have to explain those concepts within a scenario, within a situation. So identifying the vocabulary within a given situation. And then the third type of that concept understanding is applying theories and perspectives that they've learned to different situations. So here you get into Ivan Pavlov's research. Here you get into the research of Gestalt psychologists. So going even a little bit deeper and more complex. And then the rest of the questions come, there's a section that's data analysis. So again, using research and how do psychologists use the data that comes out of that research that they do. And then the last part is analyzing specific research studies and how research studies are done. So again, there's definitely some science and math base to it, and looking at how we do research and investigations, but then they're also looking at the different concepts and being able to apply them to different scenarios. And then the last part is the free response question, like I already mentioned. So that kind of wraps it up. I just wanted to give you kind of a quick understanding of what we're going to be doing this year. I'm looking forward to a great year. We've managed pretty well so far, and we're going to get into more kind of project type things as we move forward. They're actually starting a group project this week. I am in the classroom. I am very much a project-based teacher with psychology, and I'm trying to adapt all of that to at-home learning. So as we go, those changes will happen as we move forward, but hopefully we'll get to see your students soon and we can actually do some of those projects for real. If you have any questions, please reach out and email or call and let me know, and I'm happy to communicate with you and answer any questions or deal with any concerns that you may have. Otherwise, just know I'm looking forward to a great year. I'm enjoying your students so far, and again, reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.